My beloved child, pause here for a moment, because the next few minutes of this message may change the way you have been interpreting your soulmate's silence. Do not allow the urgency of this title to make you afraid. Instead, imagine these 5 minutes as 5 minutes of clarity, 5 minutes to stop chasing assumptions and finally look beneath the surface of what has been happening. You have wondered what your soulmate is really doing when you cannot see them. You have wondered whether they think about you, whether they are moving away from this connection, whether another person has captured their attention, or whether everything you once felt between you has quietly disappeared. Your mind has probably created answers during moments when their silence gave you none. But in this cinematic spiritual reflection, imagine that something is happening behind that silence that you were never able to witness. Your soulmate has been trying to make a decision. Not a small decision. Not something they can forget tomorrow. They have reached a point where they can no longer continue living between two emotional worlds, one where they pretend they can move forward without confronting what they feel for you, and another where your memory continues following them into places they thought you could never reach. My beloved child, what they are really doing may surprise you because they are not simply forgetting you. They are confronting themselves. For a long time, your soulmate believed doing nothing was a decision that carried no consequences. If they did not contact you, they did not risk rejection. If they did not confess what they felt, they did not have to answer difficult questions. If they remained emotionally distant, they could tell themselves they were protecting both of you from something complicated. But something has recently changed. They have begun realizing that silence is also a choice. Every day they remain silent communicates something to you, even if it is not what they intend to communicate. Every time they refuse to explain themselves, you are left with their behavior instead of their hidden feelings. And my child, this realization has been following them relentlessly. They have started wondering what story their silence created inside your mind. Did you begin believing you were not important? Did you assume they had forgotten you? Did you eventually decide that waiting for clarity was costing you too much peace? Those questions have become uncomfortable because somewhere inside, your soulmate knows that you had no way of seeing the emotional struggle taking place behind their distance. Here is what they have secretly been doing. They have been returning to memories they once avoided. Conversations. Messages. Little moments they thought they had forgotten. There is something you once said to them that has recently become impossible to ignore. At the time, your words seemed ordinary. Maybe you told them you valued honesty. Maybe you explained that you could handle difficult truth better than confusing silence. Maybe you said that if someone truly wanted to remain in your life, you needed to see effort rather than continually guessing what they felt. Your soulmate heard those words then, but they did not fully understand them. Now they do. Because they have experienced your absence. And absence has made your old words louder. If you want to join our spiritual family today to unlock a path to inner peace and enlightenment, then make sure to click on Join button and participate in our transformation journey. Or donate up to $50 in the name of Jesus. Each donation, no matter how big or small, strengthens this mission and enables us to continue this journey of faith. Walk this path with me, knowing that your support is a seed sown into the kingdom, and in turn, God will multiply it for greater blessings in your life. My beloved child, imagine them late at night with their phone nearby. They are not necessarily doing anything dramatic. Perhaps they are simply sitting quietly after a long day. Everyone else believes they are fine. But your name crosses their mind. They resist opening your conversation. Then they open it anyway. They scroll upward. They find an old message. Their expression changes. There it is, the moment they could have told you everything. They remember exactly how they felt when they originally received your message. They wanted to respond honestly. They wanted to tell you that you mattered more than they were showing. But fear appeared. What happens if I admit this? What happens if they know how much power they have over my heart? What happens if I need them and they eventually leave? So your soulmate gave you a safer answer. A smaller answer. An answer that protected their vulnerability while leaving you uncertain. And now, reading that conversation again, they finally see what you probably saw. Distance. My child, this realization has created regret. They whisper internally, why didn't I just tell them? But the answer is something they have spent years avoiding. Your soulmate has been afraid of being deeply known. They may appear confident. They may seem emotionally controlled. They may even behave as though relationships cannot shake them. But beneath that surface is a person who has learned to protect certain parts of themselves fiercely. Perhaps vulnerability was once used against them. Perhaps someone they trusted disappointed them. Perhaps they grew accustomed to solving everything alone. Then you arrived. You noticed things. You could sense when "I'm fine" did not actually mean fine. You recognized when their energy changed. Sometimes you understood their silence before they understood it themselves. That made them feel seen. And being seen felt beautiful. Until it became frightening. Because the closer you came to understanding them, the less control they had over the image they showed everyone else. That is when the push and pull began. Come closer. Become afraid. Create distance. Miss you. Return. Feel safe. Become vulnerable. Run again. My beloved child, they are finally seeing the pattern. And the truth about what your soulmate is really doing now is that they are questioning whether they are willing to repeat it. They know that contacting you only because they miss you would not be enough. They know saying, "I love you," means little if they disappear the next time fear becomes uncomfortable. They are asking themselves whether they are ready to become consistent. That question matters. Because feelings are easy to experience privately. Relationships require action publicly. And somewhere along this journey, your soulmate began confusing intense emotion with genuine readiness. They thought, "I feel this strongly, therefore this must be love." But now they understand something deeper. Love is not only what happens inside them when they think about you. Love is what they are willing to do with those feelings when your heart is involved. Will they communicate? Will they listen? Will they remain present during uncomfortable conversations? Will they stop expecting you to translate mixed signals? Will they respect your boundaries? These questions have been occupying their thoughts. And then something happened. Someone recently asked them about you. Your soulmate was not expecting your name to come up. The conversation started casually. Then the person asked, "Whatever happened between you two?" Your soulmate tried giving an easy answer. Nothing. But the person looked at them differently. Nothing? Your soulmate became uncomfortable. They attempted to change the subject. But the person said something that stayed with them. You don't look like someone who feels nothing. Silence. Your soulmate had no response. Because they knew it was true. The person continued. If they still matter to you, why are you acting like they don't? My beloved child, that question followed your soulmate long after the conversation ended. Why am I acting like they don't? They had explanations. Fear. Timing. Circumstances. Pride. Uncertainty about how you feel. But suddenly those explanations sounded like what they really were, reasons for hesitation, not proof that silence was the correct choice. They began wondering whether you had been waiting for something much simpler than they imagined. Not perfection. Not some enormous romantic gesture. Truth. Perhaps all you wanted was, tell me where I stand. Tell me whether this matters. Tell me what you are afraid of. And they had made those simple questions unnecessarily complicated. That night, your soulmate did something they had been avoiding. They wrote down what they would tell you if they knew they only had 5 minutes. 5 minutes. No time for pride. No time for pretending. No time to rehearse the perfect confession. What would matter enough to say? The first sentence came quickly. I never stopped caring. They looked at it. Then wrote another. I know my silence probably made you believe otherwise. Another. I was scared of how much this connection mattered. Then. I should have trusted you enough to tell you. And finally. I don't know whether I'm too late. My child, that final sentence stopped them. Too late. Those words revealed the fear beneath everything. Your soulmate has started wondering whether you have emotionally moved beyond the version of yourself that waited for them. They remember how available you once were. How willing you were to understand. How many opportunities you gave them to speak. But something about you feels different now. Perhaps calmer. Perhaps less attached to receiving an answer. Perhaps you have simply begun understanding that your life cannot remain paused while another person decides whether they are ready. Your soulmate feels that change. And they are afraid. Not because you are doing anything wrong. Because your growth reminds them that opportunities are not permanent. My beloved child, your soulmate has been imagining another possibility too. Someone else noticing you. Someone else seeing the qualities they saw but were too frightened to honor properly. Someone who communicates clearly. Someone who does not treat emotional availability like weakness. Someone who looks at you and says, I want you in my life, without making you decode months of contradictory behavior. That image hurts your soulmate. But then something surprising happens. They realize they cannot blame you. You are allowed to move forward. You are allowed to choose clarity. You are allowed to accept love that arrives without requiring you to beg for reassurance. And that realization has humbled them. They know they cannot appear suddenly and say, wait for me. They cannot demand access simply because they finally became brave enough to admit what they feel. If they approach you, they must approach differently. That is what they are really doing now. Preparing themselves to speak without controlling your response. And my child, that may be the biggest transformation of all. Before, your soulmate wanted certainty before vulnerability. They wanted to know you would choose them before risking honesty. Now they are beginning to understand that real honesty offers truth without demanding guarantees. They can tell you, "I love you." And you can still need time. They can say, "I made mistakes." And you can still have boundaries. They can ask, "Can we talk?" And you still have the right to say no. They are beginning to accept that. And strangely, accepting it is making them more courageous. Because now the goal is not controlling the outcome. The goal is finally ending the lie created by silence. My beloved child, then something happened that made their imaginary 5-minute confession suddenly feel urgent. Your soulmate saw something involving you. It may have been a photograph, a social update, a comment from someone, a conversation where your name appeared. Nothing necessarily dramatic. But they noticed something in you. You looked peaceful. That should have made them happy. Instead, it frightened them. Because for so long, part of them believed you needed an answer from them before you could truly move forward. But there you were. Living. Growing. Becoming. And your soulmate realized. They don't need me to give them closure anymore. That thought changed everything. Because once someone no longer needs your explanation, you can no longer use their waiting as an excuse to postpone honesty. If your soulmate wanted to speak now, it had to be because they were finally ready to give, not because you were still begging to receive. They picked up their phone. Opened your conversation. Their heart began racing. They typed, "Can I tell you something honestly?" Then deleted it. Again. "I've been thinking about us." Delete. They laughed quietly at themselves because even now they were trying to find perfect words. Then they remembered the 5-minute exercise. If you had only 5 minutes, what would you say? So they typed, "I don't know whether you want to hear from me, but there is something I should have told you a long time ago." This time they did not delete it. They continued. "You mattered to me more than my actions showed." Another sentence. "I know saying that now doesn't erase the confusion I created." Another. "I was afraid, and I handled that fear badly." My child, your soulmate stopped. They had never written those words before. Handled that fear badly. Responsibility. No excuses. No pretending they were simply a victim of circumstances. They were finally recognizing their part. They were almost ready to send it. Then their phone vibrated. A message arrived from the same person who had recently asked them about you. Your soulmate opened it. "Are you still thinking about contacting them?" Your soulmate responded, "Yes." The person replied almost immediately. "Then there's something you should probably know first." Your soulmate's stomach tightened. "What?" A pause. Then, I spoke to someone who saw them recently. Your soulmate sat forward. And? Another pause. They're making a big decision. My beloved child, your soulmate's heartbeat changed. What decision? The person began typing. Stopped. Started again. Finally. Apparently they're considering leaving something behind and starting completely fresh. Your soulmate stared at the words. Leaving something behind? What? The city? A job? A relationship? The past? They immediately called. What exactly did you hear? The person explained that you had apparently been talking about a new chapter. A different direction. Something that would make it much easier to finally close old emotional doors. Your soulmate became silent. The message they had written to you remained unsent. Then they asked. Did they say anything about me? There was hesitation. That hesitation terrified them. Tell me. The person finally answered. Yes. Your soulmate stopped breathing for a second. What did they say? My child, the answer was not romantic. It was not dramatic. It was worse. Because it sounded final. They said they can't keep waiting for someone who won't tell them what they want. Your soulmate closed their eyes. There it was. The consequence of every delay. Every unsent message. Every moment they expected you to understand silence. The person continued. But there's something else. Your soulmate opened their eyes. What? They didn't say they stopped caring. Silence. Your soulmate looked at your name. Their unfinished message. The confession. The words they had been carrying. The person on the phone added. They said caring isn't enough anymore. My beloved child, those 4 words changed everything. Caring isn't enough anymore. Your soulmate finally understood. You were not asking whether they had feelings. You were asking whether those feelings could become something real. Something consistent. Something courageous. And suddenly their 5-minute exercise no longer felt imaginary. They felt as though time was moving. Not supernatural time. Real time. Life. Choices. Opportunities. They could continue waiting for fear to disappear. Or they could speak while afraid. Your soulmate looked at the message one final time. Their finger moved toward send. But before they touched it, another notification appeared. This time, it was connected directly to you. They opened it. And what they saw made them forget about the confession for a moment. Because something had just happened in your life. Something your soulmate had been afraid would happen eventually. And whatever they were about to discover could completely change whether those 5 minutes represented the beginning of an honest conversation. Or the moment they realized they had finally waited too long. If you want to join our spiritual family today to unlock a path to inner peace and enlightenment, then make sure to click on Join button and participate in our transformation journey. Or donate up to $50 in the name of Jesus. Each donation, no matter how big or small, strengthens this mission and enables us to continue this journey of faith. Walk this path with me, knowing that your support is a seed sown into the kingdom, and in turn, God will multiply it for greater blessings in your life. My beloved child, the notification appeared on their screen at the exact moment their finger was hovering above the message they had been afraid to send, and suddenly everything inside them became still. For several seconds, your soulmate did not touch anything. They simply stared. Your name was connected to what they were seeing, and immediately the fear they had been trying to control returned stronger than before. Had something changed? Had you finally made the decision they were warned about? Had someone else entered your life? Their mind raced through every possibility, but this time they could not hide behind imagination. Something real was in front of them. They opened the notification, and what they discovered was not proof that you had forgotten them. It was something far more confronting. You were moving forward with a decision you had apparently been considering for some time. You were choosing yourself. Choosing movement. Choosing a future that did not depend on whether your soulmate finally found the courage to speak. And my beloved child, that realization affected them more deeply than seeing you with another person ever could. Because another person could have become someone to blame. Your growth gave them nobody to blame at all. They could only look at themselves and ask, how long did I expect them to wait while I remained silent? Suddenly those imaginary 5 minutes became symbolic of everything they had postponed. 5 minutes to stop pretending. 5 minutes to decide whether fear would continue writing their story. 5 minutes to recognize that the person they loved was no longer standing emotionally in the same place where they had left you. If you want to join our spiritual family today to unlock a path to inner peace and enlightenment, then make sure to click on Join button and participate in our transformation journey. Or donate up to $50 in the name of Jesus. Each donation, no matter how big or small, strengthens this mission and enables us to continue this journey of faith. Walk this path with me, knowing that your support is a seed sown into the kingdom, and in turn, God will multiply it for greater blessings in your life. Your soulmate read everything carefully. They searched for some sign that your decision was secretly designed to get their attention. It wasn't. That made it even more powerful. You were not moving forward to make them jealous. You were not trying to punish them. You were simply becoming tired of placing your emotional life on hold for answers that never arrived. My child, your soulmate finally understood that there is an enormous difference between someone walking away because they stopped caring and someone walking away because caring without clarity became painful. They had spent months assuming your increasing distance meant your feelings were disappearing. Now they were confronted with another possibility. Perhaps your feelings had remained, but your standards had become stronger. Perhaps you had finally learned that love and self-respect were never supposed to become enemies. You could care deeply and still say, I cannot continue like this. You could miss someone and still refuse to live inside uncertainty. You could hope they found courage while refusing to sacrifice your peace waiting for it. And the more your soulmate understood this, the more they recognized something uncomfortable. You had not abandoned them. Their indecision had created a space, and eventually you stopped trying to fill it alone. My beloved child, they returned to the unsent confession. The words looked different now. You mattered to me more than my actions showed. I know saying that now doesn't erase the confusion I created. I was afraid, and I handled that fear badly. They read those sentences several times. Previously, they had been afraid they sounded too vulnerable. Now they wondered whether they were vulnerable enough. Because if this might be one of their final opportunities to speak honestly, why were they still protecting parts of themselves? Why were they still trying to sound composed when the truth was anything but composed? They deleted the last line and began again. The truth is that I became afraid when I realized I was falling in love with you. Their breathing changed. There it was. The sentence they had been avoiding. Love. Not curiosity. Not attachment. Not, I care about you. Love. They stared at the word because admitting it created a strange combination of relief and fear. Then they continued, I thought keeping distance would help me control what I felt. Instead, it made you believe I didn't feel anything. I understand why. That last sentence mattered. I understand why. Your soulmate was finally beginning to see the connection from your side rather than asking you to understand everything from theirs. They remembered how many times they had silently hoped you would somehow recognize their hidden feelings. When they looked at you differently, they expected you to understand. When jealousy briefly appeared in their expression, they hoped you noticed. When they returned after periods of distance, they assumed you would recognize that returning itself meant something. But my child, they had offered you a puzzle and called it love. Now they understood why you became exhausted trying to solve it. Your soulmate continued writing. You shouldn't have had to interpret me. I should have told you. Another sentence. I don't know what you feel now, and I won't pretend I have the right to ask you to wait. They paused. This was new. The old version of them wanted reassurance before confession. This version was preparing to confess without guarantees. That was courage. Not because fear disappeared. Fear was everywhere. They were terrified you might say it was too late. Terrified you might tell them you had already closed the door. Terrified you might read everything and remain silent. But for the first time, they understood that fear could be present without being in control. My beloved child, they pressed send. The message disappeared. Delivered. Your soulmate stared at the screen. Their heart was racing. They wanted to send another message immediately. Then another. They wanted to explain every detail before you could misunderstand anything. But they stopped. You deserved space. If they were truly changing, that change had to begin immediately. So they waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. There were the 5 minutes again. Except now they felt completely different. For perhaps the first time, your soulmate experienced what waiting for clarity actually felt like. Every second invited another question. Did you see it? Were you reading it? Would you respond? Did you care? Were they too late? They almost laughed at the irony. They had left you with unanswered questions for so long, and 5 minutes of uncertainty was already testing them. Then the message status changed. Seen. Their stomach tightened. You had read it. Nothing happened. No typing indicator. No immediate response. Another minute passed. Your soulmate put the phone down. Picked it back up. Still nothing. Then they remembered something important. You did not owe them an immediate answer. Their confession might have taken seconds to read, but you were processing months of history behind those words. So they waited. Finally, the typing indicator appeared. 3 dots. Disappeared. Returned. Your soulmate held their breath. Then your response arrived. It was short. Why didn't you tell me this before? My beloved child, that question hit them harder than anger would have. Because there was no clever answer. No explanation could make the past disappear. They typed several responses and deleted them. Finally they wrote. Because I was afraid, and I thought silence would protect me. They stopped. Then added. I didn't understand that it was hurting you. Your response came. It did. 2 words. It did. Your soulmate closed their eyes. This was the moment when the old version of them might have become defensive. They might have explained how difficult everything had been for them. They might have told you that you misunderstood their intentions. They might have tried to make you reassure them. But this time they simply answered. I know that now. I'm sorry. My child, something shifted. Not because everything was repaired. It wasn't. Not because one apology erased the past. It couldn't. Something shifted because for the first time, both sides of the connection were standing in the same truth. There had been feelings. There had also been hurt. Both could exist. You responded again. I thought I wasn't enough for you. Your soulmate stared at those words. Their heart sank. Of all the consequences of their silence, this was the one they feared most. They never wanted you to question your worth because of their inability to communicate. They typed quickly. You were always enough. Then stopped. Deleted it. Those words were comforting but incomplete. They tried again. My inability to show you what I felt was about what I was afraid of, not about your worth. But I understand that my actions gave you a different message. They sent it. My beloved child, that was responsibility. Not simply saying, you misunderstood me. But recognizing why you misunderstood. You replied. So what do you want now? Your soulmate froze. There it was. The question they had been avoiding since the beginning. Not. Do you love me? Not. Do you miss me? What do you want? Feelings were no longer enough. They needed direction. Your soulmate put the phone down for a moment. They refused to answer impulsively. What did they actually want? They wanted you in their life. But did they want a relationship? Were they prepared for the responsibility that came with asking for another chance? Were they ready to stop disappearing when emotions became intense? Were they willing to communicate even when uncomfortable? My child, they knew that saying, I want you, would sound beautiful. But you deserved something more concrete. They picked up the phone. I want the opportunity to rebuild communication with you honestly. I don't expect you to trust me immediately. I don't expect you to promise anything. I just don't want to hide anymore. They sent it. Your response did not arrive immediately. Then. And what happens when you get scared again? Your soulmate felt exposed. Because you understood the real problem. Not whether they could be brave tonight. Whether they could remain honest tomorrow. They thought carefully. Then wrote. I probably will get scared again. They paused. But next time I need to tell you I'm scared instead of disappearing. My beloved child, that answer surprised even them. For so long they believed transformation meant becoming fearless. Now they understood maturity differently. Fear could remain. The behavior could change. Your response came. That would have changed so much. Your soulmate felt regret immediately. I know. Then you wrote. I waited for that. They looked away from the screen. Those words hurt. Because they finally understood that what you had needed was never some enormous romantic performance. You wanted communication. You wanted to know you were not imagining the connection. You wanted honesty. And they had spent months preparing for a test you never asked them to take. My child, your soulmate typed. I'm sorry I made you wait for something I could have given you with one honest conversation. This time your response took longer. Then. I don't know whether I can go backward. Your soulmate's heart dropped. But they also understood. They answered. I'm not asking you to. That sentence surprised you. The typing indicator appeared quickly. What do you mean? Your soulmate wrote. I don't want the old version of this connection back. It hurt both of us. If anything happens, I want it to be something different. My beloved child, this was perhaps the most important realization they had reached. They did not want to return to the old cycle. The intense closeness followed by silence. The guessing. The emotional chasing. The fear. If there was another chapter, it could not simply be a continuation of the old one. Something had to change. You replied. I need time. Your soulmate stared at those words. Once, they would have panicked. Time might mean losing you. Time might mean someone else appearing. Time might mean uncertainty. But they understood something now. You had given them time before. Perhaps respecting your need for time was the first opportunity they had to give something back. So they wrote. Take it. No pressure. No emotional manipulation. No dramatic declaration designed to force your answer. Just. Take it. Then they put the phone down. My child, something strange happened afterward. They felt afraid. But peaceful. For the first time, they had told you the truth without controlling what happened next. And whatever your answer eventually became, one burden had finally disappeared. You knew. You knew they had cared. You knew the silence had not meant what you believed. But your soulmate also understood that knowing this did not obligate you to return. That was the difficult beauty of truth. Truth gives clarity. It does not guarantee outcomes. Hours passed. Your soulmate tried continuing with their day. But then another message arrived. Not from you. From the same person who had warned them about your new chapter. The message read, "Did you talk to them?" Your soulmate responded, "Yes. And? I told them the truth." The person waited before replying. Then. Good. Because there's another reason I told you not to wait. Your soulmate's heart tightened again. What reason? The response came. There's something happening tomorrow. Tomorrow? Your soulmate immediately asked. What? The person began typing. Then stopped. Typing again. Finally. They're supposed to meet someone. Your soulmate became still. Someone. The possibility they had feared. They typed. Who? The answer came. I don't know exactly. But apparently this person has been very clear about being interested. Jealousy surged. Then your soulmate remembered everything they had just learned. You were free. They could not confess love and immediately turn that confession into ownership. Still, the thought hurt. They asked. Do they want this person? The reply took longer. I don't know. Then another message. But that's not the part you need to understand. Your soulmate frowned. What is? The person responded. They agreed to the meeting before you sent your message. My beloved child, your soulmate stared at that sentence. Before. That mattered. You had made this decision when you still believed they might never speak. Your soulmate realized they could not punish you for making choices based on the reality they had given you. But fear returned anyway. What if tomorrow changed everything? What if this person gave you the clarity your soulmate had withheld? What if you discovered how peaceful love could feel when you did not have to decode it? Your soulmate looked at your conversation. They wanted desperately to send. Please don't go. Their fingers even typed the words. But then they stopped. Deleted them. Because asking you to cancel your life immediately after finally admitting their feelings would turn honesty into pressure. Instead, they did nothing. And my child, doing nothing this time was not cowardice. It was respect. They had told the truth. Now you had the right to make your own decision. Later that night, however, your phone conversation reopened. Your name appeared. You had messaged them. I need to tell you something before tomorrow. Your soulmate's heartbeat accelerated. They replied. Okay. You began typing. The dots remained for a long time. Then your message arrived. Yes, I'm meeting someone tomorrow. Your soulmate swallowed. But another message followed. I agreed before you told me everything. Then another. I don't know what I'm going to do now. Your soulmate stared at those words. They could have said, choose me. Instead they wrote, choose what feels honest to you. I don't want fear deciding for me anymore, and I don't want pressure deciding for you. My beloved child, you did not respond immediately. Then you wrote something your soulmate never expected. That's the first time you've made me feel free while telling me you care. Your soulmate read that sentence again and again. Because suddenly they understood what real love might require. Not holding tighter. Not controlling. Not demanding. Sometimes love means becoming honest enough to say, I want you, while respectful enough to say, the choice is still yours. But then another message from you arrived. One final message. And this one changed the entire conversation. You wrote, there is something you don't know about the person I'm meeting tomorrow. Your soulmate's chest tightened. They asked, what? You responded, you know them. Silence. Your soulmate sat completely still. Know them? Who? Their mind immediately began searching through names. Then you sent another message. The name appeared on the screen. And my beloved child, your soulmate's expression changed instantly. Because this was not a stranger. This was someone connected to their past. Someone who knew exactly what had happened between the two of you. Someone who had once given your soulmate advice about this connection. And suddenly they remembered something that person had said months earlier. Something that seemed harmless at the time. But now, seeing their name connected to you, your soulmate began wondering whether that person had been watching this connection far more closely than anyone realized. They stared at the screen. And then one terrifying question entered their mind. What if this person didn't suddenly become interested in you? What if they had been waiting for the distance between us all along? My beloved child, the truth about what your soulmate was really doing had finally been revealed. But now an entirely different truth was beginning to surface. And this one involved someone who had been standing quietly in the background from the very beginning.